Redfall is apparently, well, not apparently,
Maybe?
it got a long-awaited performance mode on Xbox, among other things, in a recent big patch. Now, let me tell you why this news makes me laugh. Because just this week in our own Discord, we were talking about Redfall and what do Xbox do with this franchise? Do they just quietly sunset it? And I was like, I think they just quietly sunsets it because it wasn't a success. Just pull the funding, like as sad as it is, and then, redivert your attention to a new game or, I don't know, supporting other studios. Lo and behold, like the next day, a big Redfall patch is like, well, don't let me predict your lots of numbers because I don't know what I'm talking about, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen, when was it? It was a few weeks ago. I'm not sure. That someone from Microsoft, I can't recall who it was, basically said that they plan that in 10 years, Redfall will be a game that people love playing. And I'm like, that's a long time. That is like more than a console generation's worth of time for you to be like, yeah, by then people will enjoy Redfall. Like, no one's going to be thinking of Redfall.
I do wonder if, because of its bad launch, if it will get a cult following. Like, there might be, but I think
for that it needs to be like endearing in some way, and I just feel like part of what makes Redfall not fun is that it's just so lifeless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think if thinking of the games that have like strong cult followings, it's stuff like Metal Gear Rising, for example. Not a bad game, just not a game that's sold incredibly well. But like, you play that game and it's good. Like it's really, really fun. Same with, say, Beautiful Joe or Wonderful 101 from Platinum Games. Oh, wow. All my examples are Platinum Games. I just realized that. But it's like games that are underappreciated, not because they're bad games and then they get cult following. It's just like not many people took notice of them.
Resident Evil 6, am I right? The
The
game's secretly good. We all know it.
The game is not so secretly terrible, and
it's a bad Resident
will always
Evil game.
Be that way.
It's a good action game. I will die on this.
Resident Evil 5 is a good example of that, though. Like, I think in the reverse way, like that game sold incredibly well because it came out after Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people were like really down on it. But I think we're at a point where people are like,
they appreciate it.
That game is a great co-op game. Like it is a bad Resident Evil game in terms of like being scary, and there's like some problematic elements there, but it's a fun as hell co-op game, and I agree with that. So, you see, you can't even say Redfall's a fun as hell co-op game, even though it's designed that way. But who knows? I don't know. It's clear from this news that Microsoft is improving it. Like I said, the biggest parts of this is that it runs at 60 FPS on Xbox now, which is like, it should have launched like that. But yeah, we'll see. I'm still not so sure that this will save Redfall. I don't think this is the biggest part of Redfall that was a problem. I think it fundamentally has design issues that cannot be changed. Yeah. So
in other news, I suppose, should we just tick off the Last of Us news in double ways? So, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered listed on Naughty Dog Dev's LinkedIn. And I think there have been rumors of this being a thing. The Last of Us Part 2 getting a remaster, which, to be honest, like I part of me doesn't get it, but I get it. It's the same thing that happened with the original Last of Us back in the day. It had a PS3 launch and it came out as a PS4 version. So maybe this is getting a remaster for modern platforms with all extra bells and whistles, despite this game looking real good on PS4 already. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm keen. I mean, it depends. It depends how far they go with this. Like, I don't think this is the same as the sort of remake they did for the first Last of Us. I suspect this will just be like the name suggests, like a remaster. So like higher performance and slightly better looking and stuff like that. I definitely think they're going to do this, especially when you consider some of the stuff that's happened at the studio this week that we'll get into soon, it makes sense that this might be a logical stopgap for them as they move on to what presumably will be The Last of Us 3 next. So, yeah.
Uncharted 5. Let's go.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, on the Last of Us news, Last of Us studio Naughty Dog is cutting developers. You hate to see it. Yeah, so the subheader is the PlayStation's first-party studio behind Uncharted and The Last of Us Part 2 is laying off dozens of contractors.
So before, like, I was a bit confused by this initially because I was like, contractors by virtue of being contractors are in limited contracts anyway. So like, if their contracts are just expiring, that's not them being laid off. That's just their contracts expiring. But it seems that this is the case here is that their contracts are being prematurely
terminated,
killed. Yeah. So that is in essence kind of similar to a layoff, even though it's like it's not a permanent employee. So the wording is a bit weird, but like you get what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
It says a lot of it came from QA, which is kind of shitty.
Naughty Dog, like our games are quality. We don't need you to tell us that.
Well, it's been previously reported that QA is one of the worst parts at Naughty Dog, like one of the worst jobs there. So for them to also have their jobs cut is kind of like a bad look, I think. Again, contractors is a tricky thing because like between projects, like if they are definitely not going to have something playable that needs testing for the next couple of months, they don't need a QA department of 30 people just sitting there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is a fairly common thing for studios to go through, and this is why they have contractors, is because there's certain jobs that aren't required at every phase of production.
Yeah.
They're only needed in full-scale production, not pre-production, for example. So, yeah, I don't know. The part of this news that is very interesting to me is that now Kotaku is kind of corroborating a report that good old Jason Schreier published in June that suggested that their multiplayer The Last of Us game was kind of like on hold after a negative internal review by Bungie. Sony, now having owned Bungie, are using Bungie to evaluate the progress of live service games at their other studios, and it seems that Bungie didn't see long-term viability for the project that Naughty Dog was working on. Not that the quality was bad, but that, you know, from a live service perspective, it didn't have legs. And now Kotaku is reporting that while the game isn't completely cancelled, the game is basically on ice at this point. And this comes back to the previous story where, like, if this is indeed the case, it would make sense, A, for QA contractors to not be required currently, because they would probably be moving on to like a remaster project, and then moving on to like The Last of Us 3.
Yeah.
Both of which would be in earlier production, and the need for QA is not required right now.
Yeah.
So it kind of all like makes sort of sense. You know what I mean? So yeah, we'll see. I just wish Sony was a bit more transparent with this sort of stuff. You now have had 2 individual reports about this game not being cancelled / cancelled. Like, if there's a bit more clarity on what's happening, there's far less speculation. I just think get out ahead of it and be like, this is the case, you know?
Yeah.
But right now the narrative is like, ooh, Naughty Dog's live service game was garbage and they've had to cancel it. When in actual fact, it could be like, no, we just determined that this isn't the way we want to move forward. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
We don't know. I suppose speaking of games being cancelled, though, cancelled. Well, I think we touched on this last week. Sega's Hyenas being cancelled, but I think what came out this week is that it was Sega's biggest budget game ever. It is claimed,
which is wild because that it definitely did not look like that.
And then, you know, in the same story, and Hollywood director Neil Blomkamp, who we'll know in South Africa for a number of reasons, reportedly provided story direction. So I skimmed through this piece. Who was the source here? Yeah, however, a new video published by Total War YouTuber Voland, corroborated by VGC's own sources, features claims that from anonymous developers that a lack of direction, disruptive engine change, and overly cautious design contributed to the downfall of Hyenas. It's just interesting that this report has come out with, that little tidbit of it is their biggest game. I'm like, oh my God, Sega. Sega have some big games under their belts. How much money did they pour into this game before they cancelled it?
Yeah. I like this line here. It's like, so total lack of direction. Many of the leadership asleep at the wheel, but they never seem to lose their jobs. An engine change partway through the process, which is kind of insane for like that is almost a last resort type of thing. And then attempting to break into a saturated market while not committing to do anything adventurous with the game. This game would have been dead on arrival.
Yeah.
Like 100% that line is indicative of where the project was from a developer standpoint. Like it explains why maybe Sega just pulled the plug, because they're like, if we release this thing, that means more money to sink into it, supporting it or keeping it online. Like, and if it is just going to be dead on arrival, just cut the losses now. Like,
yeah.
Even though it was like on the verge of releasing. So
that's crazy. I mean, I think we touched on it last week with Jim Ryan leaving PlayStation and the whole games as a service approach that Sony have. It's like, how many of those games are going to be dead on arrival? Like, we don't know what they are, what they look like, but that is a very saturated space.
This could have been what Bungie was saying with maybe The Last of Us had a game idea and they were like, this is cool, but like it's not doing anything novel. It's definitely not going to steal any mind share from any of the big games right now. Stuff like that. And if Naughty Dog is putting it on ice now, that's a cost saving measure. They're not going to sink more. Well, Sony's not going to sink more money into that if they don't think it's going to.
Bungie were like, listen, you can't give your Firefly a light level. That is straight from Destiny. Yeah. Please.
You can't make your Fireflies Warlocks, Titans, and Hunters. That's not how this works. No.
You can't have, what's that guy, that vendor? Oh, I've just blanked now.
Zer.
Yeah, you can't have a character named Zer either. Neil Druckmann.
No,
like,
Wizards on the Moon were removed even from Destiny. Jesus.
Damn it. Neil Druckmann's like, back to the drawing board. Oh, they got us.
Yeah. God damn it, why did they have to buy Bungie? We were so close.
It's the only studio they could have not bought. What other news is there? It feels like there's so little this week. I suppose this is one you can... I think this is actually the last piece. Let me just check. We've got Arkane, Redfall, The Last of Us. That's it. We've got one last little piece. Hitman, Blood Money, Reprisal announced for Switch, iOS, and Android. You were pretty excited by this news, I think. Or not?
Yes, because I love Hitman Blood Money. This is the game that really got me invested into the Hitman series. And in many, I don't know how many people played this, but like if you've played the modern Hitman, the sandbox, reboot that now has 3 entries in it, this Blood Money is the game that informed that the most recent games, like the most, because previously Hitman games were very like linearly level based. They were still sandboxy to an extent, but it was like you start at this point, you end at this point. Blood Money was like you've got a campaign which is like, I can't remember how many scenarios there were, but it was like maybe 9. But each of them is a level where you start and then the whole thing is just open to you, and you kind of need to figure out how to. And it was the first one in the series to introduce the idea of accidental kills, so making your kills look like happenstance and you getting away scot-free. Like there's a really good level, I think it's the second one in the game, where you're at an opera house and there's so many different things you can do. There's like 2 targets, and I remember the way to get like the accidental kill was to sneak into the one target is like a guy who's rehearsing on stage, and you swap like his prop gun for a real gun. So your target gets shot on stage. And then when that happens, there's a guy in the audience who's your other target who freaks out and runs towards the stage. But if you've rigged the chandelier with like an explosive, you can the view is very cool where it like splits the view, so it shows you critical moments that are happening even though you might not be in the room. So you could see this guy like shocked and freaking out and running, and I could remotely detonate like this chandelier and it would fall on him as he was running towards the stage. Now me as a normal human looks at that and goes, that's fucking weird, that's suspicious. But like the game is like, guess they thought it was an accident, and you just walk out the front door.
Very
it's
weird.
great.
There was a loaded
so
gun
good.
and the chandelier fell like within seconds of each other. Oh my gosh!
But
What are the odds?
those two guys just died. Like there's another one which is super super good that takes place in like suburbia. There's actually a level in Hitman 2, the recent one, that is very similar to this, but like you are trying to kill like a mob boss guy, but his kid is having a birthday party.
Oh no.
I know one of the ways you can infiltrate it is like you can scope out that there's this clown in a van coming for the party, and you can just murder him and take his disguise, and then you can just enter the party as this clown and walk like scot-free around the house. Or you can sneak into a house next door which has a kid's tree house and set up like a sniper point there and just take out the guy like that. The possibilities in Blood Money like will probably seem trivial compared to what is possible now in a game, but like you can see the ideas. I mean, this game is like from 2008 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that was so novel at the time, and I love that game. I think it has one of the most ridiculous endings as well, and I love it, and I can't wait for people to play it. It's so good.
I mean,
so good.
I love this opening line of the overview. So Feral Interactive describe it as, well, they say this is a sparkling version of the stealth classic. You've lost me. I don't want static water.
There's also really good puns for every level. So one level where all your targets, it's in Mardi Gras, and all your targets are dressed up as crows. The level's called A Murder of Crows, and I was like, I love this.
You know that was
game.
Genuinely probably somebody throwing the line out, and then the whole team going like, yeah, we'll build a whole level around that. It's cool. It's cool.
So good. It's such a good game. I love it so much. Oh God. And then they went and made Absolution, which is like the most linear Hitman ever created. It's like
what happened?
If you took a first person shooter and combined it with Hitman, that's what Absolution was. Like, I do not understand how they went from Blood Money to that. It was just bonkers. Like, and don't listen to Darren. That game sucks. Absolution sucks. It's so shit.
Loved
fucking cover shooter Agent 47. Like, get out of here.
Well, was it a first person game? No, it's still third person.
It wasn't, but it might as well have been. Like, it was so linear, and then the disguise system was so fucking bullshit that you had to, like, if you had to disguise and someone like, they didn't even have to know that you had taken the disguise. They just suspected that it was you, which kind of defeats the purpose of having a disguise. And then you could tip your hat and the meter of detection would slow down. But it was still a meter that just went up. So it was like, it doesn't matter if I perfectly took out this guy and stole his disguise. Like, people would still spot me. It was bullshit.
Just like real life. You tip your hat. You've seen Netflix, Netflix's You, right?
Yes.
It's
100% that, literally that.
We've all established that
you just need a hat and a coat,
and we've all. I mean, this is discussions at my office. It's the best. We have the best conversations where, Joe's the key to his superpower is the hat. 100%. He stands 100%. There broad daylight, and the person he's stalking sees him, puts the hat on, he's gone. Like, where did you go? It's great.
There are so many. Oh man, that latest season is so weird. There's so many inconsistencies with how he's able to do things. You're right. He's got superpowers. The amount of shit he manages to do in fractions of time make zero sense.
Yeah, it's great.
It's a great series. It's good. Yeah.
But yeah, that's gaming news for this week. We've got Hitman, and
Joe is actually the real Hitman.
Joe,
to be honest,
Joe's a Hitman.